party.
Let's get messy.
Let's embrace the chaos or something. Welcome everybody to the Unready room. We are live on this Saturday noon, I guess my time, talking about Star Trek Section 31. Yay!
It's noon my time too. So
yeah, that's noon for the majority of the people on this call. So yeah, welcome everybody. With me, of course, as always, is Brandi Jackola. Brandi, how's it going?
Hey, going good.
And special treat, returning triumphantly, is the amazing, the wonderful Bruce Gibson. Bruce.
Oh my
god! Yay!
Hello. Surprise!
Indeed.
My favorite kind of surprise. Bruce surprise, favorite kind. Oh, and he's even doing the sarcastic one. Oh.
You do the live logs and proper one. Yeah.
Awesome. I can do them all.
Well, yeah, welcome everybody. I see that we have some of the regulars in the group, of course. Dave, welcome, of course. DJ Kitty Cat, Matthew, welcome. Good to see you all. I meant to have this up. Tristan couldn't make it, but I'll pull it up. He did have a coupon gym thing for me to say, which I will do so at the appropriate time, as long as I find it in time. Anyway, hopefully we'll find it. So yeah, we're talking about Star Trek Section 31. Boy, internet sure had some things to say, it seems like. But we're on the internet too, and we also have things to say. And interestingly, I did talk a little bit with Bruce about his thoughts after having seen it, but I have no idea what Brandi thought of this movie or anything. We haven't discussed it at all, which I'm really I'm excited to find that out. So yeah, and opinion is mixed, I think, is what I can say. So first of all, I guess just to come into this, what's the tenor of this discussion here? Brandi, best Star Trek ever, worst Star Trek ever, somewhere in between?
I'm going to go with somewhere in between.
Okay.
Honestly, the first time I watched it, because I like to go into things without expectations, any kind of expectations. I'm just like, just give me more JoJo. That's all I'm here for. And my first experience with it was not great, not because of the movie, but because the screener app kept kicking me out every 25 minutes. And then it took forever to log back in. And then it was restart from the beginning. So we had to fast forward to find where we were. And it took up 4 of our 10 precious views just to actually get it watched. And that was extremely frustrating. And it also broke up things in a way that caused problems for me. So Dave wasn't happy with that either. So I was looking forward to rewatching it with subtitles, after it's been released, watching it with subtitles, watching it in its entirety. And I will say I had a more positive experience the second time around.
Interesting. Okay. I think that's something I want to revisit, because I have some things to say about repeat viewings of this as well. So, Bruce, how about yourself?
Well, I was looking forward to it. And I didn't get a screener this time. I usually do, but this time I didn't, which is fine. I wasn't even looking for the screener. I forgot they did screeners. But then I saw the reviews come out. Then I started to worry. By the way, how's my internet? Because I feel like I got to probably switch laptops. But anyway,
okay.
Okay. So anyway, I was a little nervous. I was like, oh no, these are really bad reviews. This is not, it's pretty consistent out there. But so I reached out to Dan, because I saw that he had a YouTube review and I hadn't watched it yet. And I was just like, Dan, before I watch it, yeah, I want to know, like, is it, just like, he's like, he was, being kind of positive. Didn't give me much detail, but just enough to make me go, it's probably okay. Well, yeah, there's some good stuff in there, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, I got Friday morning. First thing I did in the morning, I usually make the bed, but I didn't this time because I had to get down and watch it in my movie theater room. And I don't know. It started off like the first 10 minutes or so. I was like, okay, I'm liking this. Then we got to the bar stuff. I was like, I'm not sure about this. But then throughout the whole rest of it, I was having fun with it. So I went in with low expectations, and it was better than I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of right there with all of you as well. It's definitely not the best thing Star Trek has ever done by any stretch. It's also not the worst. I enjoyed it, and I kind of have the ethos of when I go into anything, I'm always looking for things to like about it, and like that's not even an active thing I'm trying to do that I have to do. It's just I think my mindset in watching most things. There are things that will get to a threshold point where it tumbles off a cliff, and I'm like, okay, now I'm just laughing at this, and it's terrible. This wasn't that. This wasn't that at all. There was a lot to enjoy in it. Michelle Yeoh, of course, is amazing, and I actually really liked the characters. I really liked the cast, and to your point, Brandi, as well, the repeat viewing thing. I will say, if I had just watched this once, I would be a little bit like, because it hits you. There's a lot happening all at once. It's very fast paced. It kind of leaves your head spinning a little bit. The second watch, I was really able to get a lot deeper into a lot of the things and realize, oh, there are things this movie is trying to say. There are topics that they're kind of trying to explore with a little bit more depth than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for. Now, would I say this is a deep movie that has a lot to say? No, definitely not. But I think there's more depth there than people are giving it credit for. So
I agree with that. The thing about repeat watching something is, like, the first time you see something, you're bombarded with everything, and you're following along and you're watching the plot. But when it's a second viewing or even a third viewing, you can focus on other things. You know where the story is going, so now you can watch all of the littler moments and the undercurrent of certain things that you wouldn't catch necessarily the first time because it's just all being thrown at you. So that's why I always watch something more than once if I'm going to, talk about it with other people.
Definitely, yeah.
Because just and the first time I watched it with all those interruptions, I was still just kind of like, I'm gonna have to definitely rewatch this when it comes out so that I can A, have subtitles, and B, not get interrupted. But yeah, it was almost a totally different experience than the first time I watched it.
Yeah, see, I haven't had that chance yet. I was going to watch it last night with my wife, but she had patient notes to work on, and she usually watches stuff while she does patient notes. But she says, "Well, I want my full attention on it." So we never got to rewatch it, or I didn't get to rewatch it last night and before this. So I've only seen it once, but it has run through my head many times. So I feel like I've rewatched it in my head.
For sure. Awesome. Well, let's jump into it and talk about the actual movie. So we start out in the Mirror universe in Giorgio's youth, and we see kind of the making of Giorgio, I guess, a little bit, which was interesting in that I feel like it's a bit of an attempt to not redeem the character, certainly, but like show more how she's the product of her environment and how she's been brainwashed and forced into this kind of, like, as a kid, molded into what she would become, which of course doesn't excuse things, but it's an interesting extra little point towards the, like, let's try and not soften her character. I can't think of the right word, but like, let's file off those corners a little bit and kind of start the path towards some sort of redemption. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I'm curious, because That's what I saw that the purpose of that being, but I'm not sure. Other than introducing San, of course, which we'll get to.
Yeah, and it bothered me every time they called him San.
Mm.
Like, no, it's San. Thank you.
Han, or Han, and like Star Wars.
Yeah, it's Han. But the first thing that occurred to me is I'm like, okay, first of all, this younger actor playing Giorgio was exquisite.
Yes.
Second of all, what a weird way to choose an emperor. It's like the Emperor Hunger Games. What is this? Why is this? Why is this the process? I would think it's just whoever manages to kill the current emperor gets to be emperor next, but no, let's make a bunch of kids fight each other. What? What is that about? So that part of it kind of just took me a while, and I still don't understand why. That is like the least cohesive way to choose a new emperor.
Yeah.
But especially with the Terran Empire being so cutthroat, it's like, what? You're gonna have a competition between kids? No, it's just the person who's strong enough to kill the emperor becomes the emperor. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? For the mythos that they have. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. I knew that basically Dave and I knew immediately that she was going to kill her family.
Oh yeah. It's kind of telegraphed almost.
Yeah. And yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting opening scene. It's kind of heartbreaking because they show these moments between San and Philippa, and obviously they care very deeply for each other. They love each other, and he doesn't have that killer instinct to kill his own family. So, or does he? There's a part of me that's like, did he do that actually because he didn't want to be emperor? Really? That he wanted her to be emperor?
That's a good question. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because he loved her so much that he couldn't stand to be without her, and he didn't want to rule, so he wanted her to rule.
Yeah.
Anyway, that crossed my mind the second time I watched it.
Regarding the succession thing, I'm wondering if like Archer and Sato just screwed things up so much. They're like, no. We need just killing everybody to get to the top. We can't have this anymore. We need to do something else.
Fair. I'll give you that. But it just seems like such a weird way. Yeah, have a bunch of kids fight. That's a great way to choose an emperor.
Yeah.
What? No.
Definitely different for sure.
Yeah.
The whole San thing, definitely interesting, and obviously he's going to come into it later, and there's certain tropes that they use that I'm like, okay, I think we know who that is, etc. But yeah, it definitely, it's one thing I've read about is the different iterations that this took, and how the first scripts were completely thrown out and this is totally new. Interestingly enough, the San character had to be there from the beginning because he's mentioned in the Discovery episode where Giorgio goes through the Guardian of Forever, right? She's when she's having those phasing out things, she's having memories of San, and she sees bloody hands and says San, and she starts to tell the story to Burnham, but Burnham's like, tell the story to the people you're going to go see, kind of thing. So there was setup there, and I wonder how much of that original story was carried through here, or if it was just they went with the name and did a totally different story. I don't know.
I wonder how many people remembered that scene from Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Probably not as many as I think.
For sure. Bruce, what did you think of the whole Hunger Games thing?
I like the concept. I'm with Brandi on this. I like the scene, but it just created all these questions. Like, because I was thinking, okay, why are we doing it this way to find the next empress of the empire? And I thought, okay, I guess we'll find out why it's being done this way later. And of course, that didn't come up. But yeah, and then I was like, why did she kill his? Because if I thought when she killed her family and Son didn't kill his, I was like, oh, does that mean she's just more ruthless? Like, I guess I was looking for something that said that Giorgio was a good person, is a good kid, but has been forced to do these things, which I think is still the case. But I wanted to know, what was it that made her go ahead and decide she's got to kill her family? There had to been, I was hoping that there was something that it wasn't just about getting power. It was about, she had to do it because she's trying to save Son, or she's trying to protect something else. But this is the world that she's gotten into that led her to be more and more evil. And by the time we get to Discovery, that good that's still in her starts to come out. And so I was looking for the good in her, and I wasn't seeing that. And so that was a little disappointing to me. I liked the scene, but I wanted to see that she wasn't as evil as she was portrayed as a youth.
Yeah. I think the only line we get was, I think it was because Son didn't kill his family, his village is like gone or something. So, you know, you can infer a couple things that like, oh, Giorgio did this to save the lives of, but that's never said. Like, that's never, and that doesn't sound right to me either. So yeah, a little bit more on that would have been okay. So this is going to be a thing that comes up a lot during this. A little bit more would have been good. And watching this, there are the bones of a series or a mini series here that it's very clear they've had to cut down to fit it into this length of movie. And there are so many times this is going to come up where, oh, they I feel like they just kind of we joke, me and Barry, in the podcast we did about this, that they kind of run up to an issue or a topic and they touch it with their finger and then run away because they can't linger on things. They can't, you know, and I feel like we would have gotten a lot more exploration of these origins if this had been more of a mini series. And then same with some of the characters we see later when we get to the present part of the story and all of that. I feel like there's a lot of different things that they just barely touch and then run away from it because, well, we can't linger on that. We can't talk about that too much, kind of thing. And that's my biggest regret with this movie, I think, is that those things are missing, and it's clear they're missing.
Yeah, well, we can thank Bean Counter studio executives for that, can't we? I mean, they don't outright ever say that, oh, yeah, they're making us compress this into a movie instead of letting us do a mini series. But I mean, considering how much they canceled in new Star Trek, I feel like that probably was the case.
Yeah, I also feel like, and they have outright said in interviews that it was mostly mostly Michelle Yeoh's schedule, that she's in demand now, and this is like she was willing to do this but not commit to the mini series or the series, right? So I feel like there were tied hands at various points, and nobody can blame Michelle Yeoh. Her star is on the rise right now, and if they wanted her for a series or a mini series, she's probably too expensive for them, and rightfully so. Like, she's a hot commodity right now.
So it is down to the bean counters again. Yeah.
Well, what they've said is her schedule. That's not a bean counter thing. That's her making a decision, right? So I don't know. That's what they've said.
I think there's more behind it, because I don't trust the studio executives at Paramount. So
yeah, they don't have a ton of money right now, apparently.
Oh, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, well, for the TV industry stuff, we'll turn to Bruce. He probably knows a lot more about that than me, that's for sure.
Oh, I know way too much. I have to live it every day with my own company. So
boy, that sounds fun.
Yeah. But you know, whatever the decision, it does. this is the problem I've had with some other movies, and that is where, they wrote a script and it was like 3 hours long, so they had to condense it. And you can tell when you go to see the movie, there's things that are just a bit jarring, or it doesn't really flow right because they tried to cram, they shortened the script, and there's things that are missing, and there's questions in there, and you're like, well, had we gotten the original Justice League, just for example, we would know all this. And I feel like that's where this movie suffers some. It's from multiple episodes being condensed into some, because I'm sure we would have gotten more about the Giorgio early years than what we did in this film.
Yeah. And it's on multiple levels too, because like there's the cramming down of the mini series, but also within the movie there are edits and stuff here that I'm like, oh, they trimmed like a minute and a half there, the kind of continuity stuff that you start to notice, like people jumping in position and just like, oh, there was a cut there that wasn't there originally, for sure. So yeah, that's apparent, definitely. I guess let's get to the present day, which in this case is during that lost era between the end of the TOS films and the beginning of the next generation, where Giorgio has, for reasons unknown and methods unknown, become in charge of the space station, I guess, which is kind of outside Federation space, and maybe a wretched hive of scum and villainy. We're not sure. But it seems like a little kind of off the books, outlawish type place here. And it's really interesting. We see all our Section 31 characters very quickly as Giorgio clocks them in her bar. All these various characters that we're going to come to know over the course of this movie, and one or two that we won't get to know very well over the course of this movie because they get shuffled off pretty quickly. But I guess let's talk a bit about the characters. Maybe talk about some characters that stood out to you that you enjoyed. And I guess Brandi, if you want to go first.
Honestly, I think my favorite person in all of this was our cameloid friend.
He's very good.
Because where have we seen a cameloid? I mean, like, obviously there are different shapeshifters in the Star Trek universe, but where have we seen a cameloid again since Star Trek 6?
Yeah. Well, we don't know. Maybe we have.
Well, not that it's been actually noted. And I can't even read my stuff because I don't have my glasses on. So don't get old, people. Just don't do it.
Well, the alternative is worse.
Yeah, that's true. Quasi, I think was his name.
Yes. Quasi.
Yes. I wrote it very small. So I find it so adorable that he gets nervous when he shapeshifts. That he's totally just so nervous around Giorgio, and he's just kind of without guile, I guess, is the best word to say it, which is a very odd sort of thing to have in this team, but I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say he's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, Sam Richardson does an amazing job with him.
So
and
good.
Like, I know he's been in a bunch of stuff. The one thing I mainly know him from is Ted Lasso. And
same.
Such a different character.
He's so good.
I hated that character. I loved Sam Richardson playing that character, though.
It was perfection.
Yeah. And I loved kind of them dealing with his... Barry and I figured it's kind of almost a form of neurodivergence where he sees all the possibilities of a situation and gets paralyzed because he doesn't want to make a decision because he can't commit to, you know what I mean? Like, he gets paralyzed by all the different possibilities. And I thought that was, again, if this were longer and we were able to stick with this a little bit more, maybe we'd get a little bit more exploration. But what we do get, I think, is better with him than with other characters. where the people around him, the good people anyway, and maybe this should have been an indicator early on who was kind of maybe the bad guy, but the supportive people on his team make allowances for that, and they don't get mad at him for this. They give him a framework to make a decision and to help him through, right? I'm thinking of Garrett towards the end when they're on the ship, right? And she just says, like, this is it, it's this or this, you have to make a decision, and that's all there is to it. You know, she helps him through it. She doesn't get mad at him, she doesn't yell at him, she doesn't call him an idiot, anything like that, right? And I love that. I thought it was really, I would have liked a deeper exploration of it, but I liked the kind of, I would say, neurodivergence representation here.
I agree completely, because I have been in his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, there's too much, I can't choose, and I just shut down. It just shut down, and I just avoidance is basically the response to something like that. But he didn't have that choice, so way to go, Quasi, on keeping as many people alive as possible. But yeah, I really appreciated that too, and it didn't occur to me, like, neurodivergence didn't really occur to me. I am neurodivergent. It's really fun. Because there's, neurodivergence covers a wide spectrum, let's put it that way. And but in this case, I really identified with him and that paralyzing thing of having to make a decision and knowing, if I make the wrong decision, people die. So it's wow. I was really proud of him when he finally made the decision.
I hear a dog getting excited somewhere. Anyway.
Is it your dog?
It may be my dog. Bruce, thoughts on Quasi?
I like Quasi. The thing that okay, there's questions that come to mind, and I don't want to really, I'm not jumping ahead too far, but the plan was he was going to shapeshift into Giorgio.
Mm-hmm.
But why do they need to get her for him to do that? Does a cameloid have to be near their subject to become them? That was a question I had.
I felt like maybe they just had to take her out so she wasn't in play, so that he could take her place and she wouldn't, interfere. That was my guess, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, could be. But it made me wonder. It's like, oh, does a cameloid have to? They can't ship shape into something. Ship shape. Oh, got it. Ship shape. Shape shift into something unless they're in proximity or touching. Because when we see Star Trek 6, she forms into Kirk, but she's near Kirk too.
Yeah, or maybe he just has to study her close enough to be able to. Yeah, that's a good point.
Those are thoughts that came to my mind. But I was glad his character didn't get killed, because I liked him a lot. I just thought he was a fun character. I thought there was, again, because of the limits of the movie, I can just imagine there's so much more to his character to like that we didn't get a chance to really get to know. But him flying the ship and he's like, I don't know which button I love that moment, because I don't know how many times in Star Trek someone gets on a alien ship that they're not aware of and they seem to know which buttons to push, or they can read the light or whatever. And I just thought, he goes, I can't read all this, and there's like 2 buttons, and I'm afraid I don't know which one's which. That was like my favorite Quasi moment.
Yeah. I always like that. There was the nitpickers guides always referred to Starfleet computer systems as having an IFOS, which is an invader friendly operating system. It seems like anybody just takes over the Enterprise and they're like beep 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 boop.
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about another character. I like this going character by character because I think there's some interesting discussions there. We have the leader of the Section 31 group, Alok Zahar, who I think wasn't my favorite character. This was one of the things that, like, on my first watch, I was kind of like, oh yeah, he was kind of there. And there was kind of an interesting reveal about him being an augment or somebody who was captured and enslaved by the augments and turned into one himself. An interesting backstory, and I didn't really pay much attention to his character until that reveal. Then I was like, oh, okay. And then on the second watch, kind of watching that with that in mind and keeping that in mind, picking up on various tells throughout the movie that like he's not reacting the way we would expect someone to. I was like, oh, okay, I see. They're working that into his character and that sort of thing. And then also on the second watch was I noticed it on the first watch, but the second watch I didn't realize how much in your face it was, the flirtation between him and Giorgio, and the like, especially at the end where they're destined for some how does Giorgio put it? DEFCON level
DEFCON level fun.
something like that, yeah, in Discovery. Anyway, so what are your guys' thoughts on Alok Zahar?
He's too much of an enigma for me. It's, you get his backstory, well, part of his backstory, but I don't actually think that's a bad thing that he's an enigma, because he's kind of the leader of the team, really. And you have to be able to make the tough decisions when you're the leader. And it's a really good thing that he is an augment, or he would be dead by now.
Oh yeah.
He would have absolutely been deaded. So at least he has that to save him. But I just, we only get that little bit of backstory, and I still don't have a really good grasp of who this guy is. And I think maybe that was actually purposely done, that he is supposed to be an enigma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a lot of ways, this movie still feels like a pilot to further adventures, and I feel like that's his role, right? The enigma, the like, let's maybe even like in the first chunk of whatever, maybe that wasn't even supposed to be revealed. Like that would have been a later reveal or something, that he's that he has that backstory and stuff. Maybe there'd be more hints or something that's not quite right or whatever. I could see them, and they're like, oh, we got to reveal that because this might be the last time we ever see this character, right? So yeah, that's an interesting thought. I feel like his character would be more suited to an ongoing thing where you learn more about him as you go, for sure.
Yeah, he was my favorite of the group, actually. And I think the reason for that, the augment thing is an interesting backstory, but I don't really know how necessary it was for the story to have that in there. I mean, I guess towards the end, it kind of helps. But I think the reason I liked him is because he seemed more like a Section 31 agent than anyone else. And it just felt like he was the leader of the misfit toys. So, because a lot of the other characters, I'm like, really? Would Section 31 really like go after this person to be part of Section 31? I almost felt like, I'm not even sure if these people were all real official Section 31 members and just weren't recruited because of something about them that could be used for this mission or some other mission, but they're never going to lead a mission, and I'm not talking about Garrett, of course, she's separate from that, but I liked him because he seemed more grounded. He seemed like he could be Starfleet, and then I thought he was a good balance to Giorgio, who's kind of like, I'm going to go out there and torch the world. And he's like, nope, we got to bring it down. So I thought he was a good balance for her character. So that's why I found him to be appealing, because he was the one character. It's like, I want to know more about him. The others I didn't want to know about as much as I wanted to know about him. So I would like to see him carry on maybe into like future episodes or movies or whatever, just to get to know him more. But I really liked him. I thought he was just a cool Section 31 type agent.
Cool. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I like that. Yeah. I wonder if he was just he was kind of granted the ability to put together his team and like just recruit whoever he wanted kind of thing. That kind of makes a little more sense in my head for how this team came to be, for sure. Speaking of the team, let's talk a little bit about Zeph, the muscle with the big bionic suit, who I initially very much dismissed as just the brawn, right? The kind of meathead, brawny guy who's just going to do whatever Alok says kind of thing. One thing I noticed, and I kind of love this, is when he meets his ultimate fate towards the end. Although spoilers through all of this, by the way, if we're talking,
duh.
Yeah, just in case it hasn't been said. When he meets his ultimate fate, he's the only one of the group that ever says the word friend. Like he there's kind of a depth to him that, like, when he's being used, when he's being piloted to do this, he doesn't say, "Stop it, you're hurting me. Stop, why me? Why are you doing this to me?" All he says, "Don't do this to them. We're your friends. Don't do this." And I was just like, "Oh, that's interesting." That, like, there's a loyalty there and a feeling of friendship that you don't really see necessarily outright said anyway by the rest of the group. And I was like, that's interesting that it's the meat-headed, big tough guy that is making that appeal at the end and saying, "Don't hurt your friends." I just did something kind of cool about that.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I had forgotten exactly the circumstances around his death, from the first time watching it. I mean, I knew he died, but I didn't remember, and I knew who had killed him, but I didn't remember those scenes when they finally got the footage downloaded
Mhm.
of, his onboard camera or whatever it is. He's got a camera in his eye. So and it's heartbreaking. It's really
Mhm.
heartbreaking because he is pleading. He's pleading. He's so upset, not only that he's being used in this way, but also mostly because he doesn't want anything to happen to his friends.
Mhm.
And it's not something, I mean, that's what we do when we make assumptions. We make asses out of ourselves because you can take a look at a person and judge them by their outward appearance, but you don't really understand what's going on inside. And that guy was as loyal as they come.
Mhm. Absolutely. I like Patrick's point. Um, made him think of Wrecker from the Bad Batch. Yeah, I definitely see that. I get that for sure. Um, Also a little bit of exploration, and again, this is something that, like, if this were longer, there'd be more more attention paid to it. The idea of transhumanism and, like, the fact that he thinks of his augmentations as himself. I think there's some interesting science fiction concepts there that I would have liked to, but again, just touch it and run away kind of thing. Um, Also, though, contrast, and Barry pointed this out in the podcast, contrast how the group treats him and his issues versus Quasi and his issues, where he's, I think, seen as tough and whatever, so he can take, being mocked a bit, and they mock him, and he, like, obviously upset by it. And
He's just a teddy bear.
yeah.
He's a big old mech teddy bear.
Yep. Yeah. Who has mecha dysmorphia, which is interesting. I like that. Thoughts on Zeph, Bruce? What do you think of the big lug?
Well, they do portray him as not being all that smart, and that he just needs to be told what to do. So again, that goes back to the idea that Alok brings him on not because he would be himself. This guy would be an agent himself. He probably is only brought onto missions what other agents are leading just to be that muscle and be told what to do. His loyalty is like, this isn't to be put down, but like a dog, right? It's like,
Hmm.
like even when he goes crazy and he's crashing through walls, you got to go, sit, boy, sit, up, settle down. You know, it's like that. He's so loyal to his owners or his, leader in this group that he looks for them for guidance. And he was probably maybe the least favorite character of that new group for me, only because he wasn't that bright. I mean, Wrecker's a lot smarter to me in Bad Batch than this guy is, but but he was entertaining though. I thought he was funny, and I thought the actor did a great job with him. It's just, to me, there's not a whole lot there. At least not anything that was shown to us. Of course, if this was a series, miniseries or whatever, we probably would have gotten more about him. But yeah, he was just kind of a dumb, beefy guy that ended up dying halfway through. So
yeah. Let's talk then about, who do I want to go with, the bad guy, or we'll save. Let's talk about Garrett, because honestly, Casey Roll as Garrett, I think, next to Michelle Yeoh, is one of my highlights of this movie. I really loved her in this role. I thought she was a lot of fun, and really brought a lot of interesting stuff to Rachel Garrett as a young lieutenant, kind of not at the seasoned captain that we see in yesterday's Enterprise yet, but more on the path to it. And she's got like this interesting little mini arc in the movie that, again, if it were spread out, we would have, I think, seen more of an evolution of that, and more of a kind of path that makes sense, that takes a little bit longer there. But I really enjoyed her, and I loved just little things like when the evidence seems to point to her as being the mole on the team, and she assumes that Georgiou is just trying to get rid of her because she's kind of one of the more savvy people, and she thinks Georgiou is probably just going to use everything to her own ends. But then when Georgiou figures things out, that's when Garrett realizes, oh, she's actually a valued member of this team and is actually trying to, accomplish the same ends. And we see the character kind of turn a little bit and trust her a bit more and become a little bit more of a, chaos goblin by the end of the movie. I really loved the way she played her little quips, just all those little bits. I really enjoyed her.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I enjoyed it very much. Like the first time we see her, she's in a wig and this weird makeup, etc., etc. And then when you see her as her normal self, she looks like she's 15 years old. She's just like, wow, you could actually to get a lot of work in undercover work, because damn, I would not have seen those two people, her without the makeup and then with, and thought they were the same person. So yeah, but I love the scene when she's got to find some way to blow up the ship, and she's like, okay, chaos, guys, chaos. Just talking to herself, because I've actually done that a few times myself, where I'm like, I gotta get this done. What am I gonna do? Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna be fine, right? Fine. So I totally identified with her in that scene, and I really enjoyed her very much. In fact, when they said in the beginning, when they were introducing the people, and they said Garrett, and I said, Captain Garrett? Just immediately, I'm like, Captain Garrett, I wonder. And it's not until later that they actually say her first name, but I just immediately thought Rachel Garrett.
Yeah, for sure. Bruce?
Yeah, no, I liked her too. So what I liked about what they did with this character is they established several times, and I haven't had the benefit of watching it twice for you guys. So there's certain things I want to look for again that maybe I missed or forgot. But one thing I liked about this is she mentioned several times that she's a science officer. She made that very plain and clear. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, then why are they sending a science officer who's a lieutenant to babysit the Section 31 unless Starfleet sees something more in her than just being a science officer? They see her on a command track. And so there's that chaos stuff. And I think she knows that too. But she wants to own it when she wants to own it. But then when she doesn't want to own it, I'm just a science officer, So I think she's still figuring out her path, exactly where she wants to go with this. What I would have liked to see more of between her and the other characters is her babysitting them a little more, like confronting them. No, don't do that. No, I don't think we should. And maybe there is that. That's why I need to watch it again. But because she's Starfleet and she is there to kind of make sure they do the right things, I would have liked to seen a little more conflict with her and the other characters. But no, I thought she was good. I enjoyed her.
Mm-hmm. I almost wonder if, because the movie does allude to that a couple times, where I think Georgiou says something like, "Why did Starfleet send you on this? Is it because they see, or they think your talents will be good for whatever?" So I feel like that's another thing, that if this had been a longer series, that might be a question that, like, at some point Garrett asks her superiors and they like, "We want you to be a captain someday, you idiot," or something.
Yeah, there's
like, "We think you're good at this."
you keep mentioning those things, like, oh yeah, there's this. It's almost as if they're like, the writers are like, yeah, we had an episode for this, so we're not. But since we didn't do it, we just want to mention, hey, there was something here.
Yeah. The more that I watch this and the more that I analyze it, I see more of those moments, I think, where like, oh, that was a whole episode that they're like, well, let's make 2 lines out of that now, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, which again is too bad. I forgot about that scene where she gets the handcuffs off too. I loved her reaction to that.
She's like, yeah.
That was cute. I like that. Yeah, the other thing, Brandi, you brought up with the little doll, that like, that felt so Doctor Who to me.
Yes.
Like, especially like, what was the alien race called? The
Droom. The Droom.
The Droom. That sounds so like, oh, we don't allow Droom tech into the Federation, because basically it's like a nuclear bomb if you mix something with the battery or whatever.
Yeah, Dave also said, he also mentioned, hey, this is also very Doctor Who. It's just honestly, the whole thing has a feel of a Doctor Who Christmas special, because those are always freaking insane.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good call for sure. Okay, let's talk about Fuzz then, I guess. Unrepentant bad guy, even more so, I think, than the main bad guy. But conceptually a really interesting character. He's this like microscopic or dust mite sized little intelligent creature who pilots a robotic body, basically, and interacts with the larger world that way. What did we think of Fuzz? What are our thoughts on Fuzz? I'm really curious what you guys think of him.
I wanted to punch him in the face every time he opened his mouth.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Surprised me.
And I'm like, what accent are you doing here? What is this?
Yeah. Sven Rygrock, apparently a voice actor, more primarily a voice actor, I should say. Yeah, very kind of twee Irish accent as the android. Kind of a pirate accent when we see his like little self. Interesting choices for sure.
Yeah. Also, why a Vulcan bot?
That makes no sense.
Of all things, of the vast availability of conveyances you could have chosen, you get 2 Vulcan bots? Wow. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. Which is why when you see him, for the first time, when they're like, "Yeah, let's go," and he's like, "I can't wait," or whatever. I can't remember what he says. And Dave turns to me and he says, "He's on autopilot. That bot's on autopilot now." And so we knew immediately from that who the bad guy was.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't fault the actor. I think the actor was very good and did exactly what he was asked to do. The character himself, I could go my whole life never seeing that again.
Mhm. So this is interesting, and I like, because I'm not Irish, I don't know. I wasn't able to, but apparently, yeah, some real Irish people not very happy with the accent. I haven't watched any of Trek Culture's coverage, but according to DJ Kitty Cat here, Sean Ferrick was very offended at the accent. I'm very sad to hear that. That sucks. That's not cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all because I've heard real Irish people talking. That is not the accent they did.
Yeah.
It was like a caricature.
Yeah, that's never good. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't know what more to say about that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I was watching a show from some other country and they had a character speaking with a crazy American accent, I don't know if I'd be offended or not, but I just feel like the point was that he's playing it so over top, just an over top. And for whatever reason, he chose to go with a certain accent and then just really take that over the top. But even everything else he does in this portrayal of this character is just so over the top, to the point that I'm with Brandi. It's like not necessarily wanting to punch him in the android face, but he was a bit annoying. But again, no fault of the actor, just what this character was. And then the little dust mite that runs him was just that whole thing. It's not that I hated it. I don't want to say that. Hey, I'd like to see them bring back this alien race again, and the Vulcan robots or whatever again. And I'm like impressed by this android because decades later people are so impressed with Data, and I want to say, hey, but have you seen this guy? I mean, that's a good looking android there. He looks more real.
Yeah, but I mean, I think with Data, that was an entirely artificial intelligence. That was kind of the
that's the big
thing. But
yeah,
interesting. I like the concept of this species, but yeah, this iteration of it. And I feel bad because the podcast that went out today, I was, which Barry and I recorded like 2-3 weeks ago. I was I said a lot of good things about Sven Rycrock and how much fun I enjoyed his performance. But yeah, since learning that like, oh, it was actually pretty offensive, and I didn't even realize he wasn't Irish. I'm bad. I don't know, but
yeah.
So that's unfortunate. That's really too bad.
Now he then in the end of the movie, he plays the Fuzz's wife, right?
So with the emo haircut, yeah.
Was that what? I can't recall what act was that. Also an Irish accent, or was that different?
That was a Southern U.S. accent. He did.
Yeah,
he talked
which it
quite
was
a
also
bit like this.
It was really again a caricature.
Yeah.
Because my mother is from Arkansas, so I know what Southern people sound like. But the thing is there are different Southern accents. There's not just one Southern accent. They vary depending on region. Mm-hmm. So you can find several different ways that people will say the same word in a Southern accent. So, and I think the same is true really of any accent, honestly, that there isn't one, you can't group everything under one banner per se.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Like try saying like, what is the British accent?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're because it's all regional. It's all regional.
And same with Irish too.
I mean, like even my accent, the way I say things isn't necessarily the way people 500 miles south of me are going to say them, or 50 miles south of me are going to say them. I will say this: people in Utah have a tendency to not pronounce their T's, and they say things like mountain. No, there's a T in there. Mountain, but they say mountain.
Yeah.
So they also say viaduct, which is not a word. You mean viaduct, kids, okay?
Oh.
Viaduct. It's not a viaduct. It's a viaduct. Look it up. I had an argument with an employee once, a coworker I worked with, and she's like, "No, it is viaduct." And I said, "Look it up. Show me." And she couldn't. She looked it up. She's like, but it's no. I'm like, no, you're just saying it wrong. Also, it's not crick, it's creek. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, accents vary by region.
Can we talk about him listing off his kids' names though? Because that
Had
made
to
me
be.
laugh.
Had to be improvised. Absolutely agree.
Trip 2.
I'm like, yay, Trip! Enterprise reference.
I thought I had a few of them written down, but I can't find them now. But yeah, that killed me. I don't know. I loved that. That was hilarious.
Well, did you hear that originally they were for Fuzz, they were gonna have Dick Van Dyke do a Cockney accent for that character, like he did for Mary Poppins? That's what I heard.
I see.
You didn't hear that?
From trusted sources, I'm assuming.
Trusted sources. It's always from trusted sources.
The problem is he overslept, so they didn't bring him into.
Nah, makes sense. Missed opportunity there. Shoot.
Well, I mean, he's almost 100, guys. You gotta just give him a break.
He's great. He's wonderful.
I love Dick Van Dyke. He's the best.
Yes, absolutely. So the last member of the team, I guess, that we haven't talked about is Mel, who we don't get to know. We don't learn much about, which I have some mixed feelings on, because like I would have liked to know more about the character, would have liked to have seen more of her, obviously, but at the same time, I don't know that we need like a traditional honey trap character, like that kind of trope here. I don't know. I'm like, okay, once you've done the kind of like seduce somebody and then kick them in the chest, which we see a few seconds of, what more are you going to do with the character? Personality wise, and her as an individual, I would have liked to learn more about her, but as far as the skills that they say she brings to the team, I don't know that we need that myself, but I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that she was wasted in that part.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel bad for the actor, because I think that she could have brought something interesting to it if she'd been allowed, if they'd had the time. And we don't see Deltons a lot. I think we see Deltons, of course, in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. We see them again in Picard for a little bit. But other than that, we've heard mentions, but we haven't really seen Deltons. And I'm just like, can't we? Why can't we?
Yeah. This is another thing, and again, we keep coming back to this. I feel like we would have had like a couple episodes with her or something, and then, her loss would have been a bigger blow, like something like, oh my God, we lost one of our characters, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Here it's one and done, really quick. Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was cool to see a Delton. I like that, but I mean, it was just such a quick part, small part, that there just isn't a whole lot there for me to comment on, except I didn't like the heart-shaped bubble when she would blow the bubble. There were just times in this that I felt that they were trying too hard at certain things, or trying to be too strange, or trying to be too inventive and too creative in things, It was just sometimes little things like that were a little off-putting to me. Like, really? Okay, now we're doing heart-shaped bubbles. You don't have to be alien about everything, but whatever. But yeah, that I don't really have anything for her. But it was cool to see it fight too. So
Agreed.
I think my biggest thing with the heart-shaped bubble is like you can kind of see the seams where they've like actually put this thing together that she like it's clear that it's not a bubblegum bubble. I don't know.
right.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay. So let's talk about, I guess, the main thing going on in this movie, which is the conflict between Giorgio and who we eventually learn is San, which, you know, I think very early on, first of all, whenever they introduce a character that's wearing a mask, it's like, okay, obviously they're trying to hide the identity of this character. Who have we seen so far? Oh, I
Yeah.
wonder if it could be, you know.
Yeah, it was very obvious, I think, to everybody, because who
Yeah.
else could it be?
Yeah. There's some interesting things that go on between them even when he is wearing the mask. I love when he steals what we learn is the Godsend away from her. And I love how he very deliberately, because she doesn't know at this point what it is that they're trying to get and how personal it is to her. But he, before he beams away, he opens it and shows it to her. So she knows what it is. And I love that. Was interesting that he's like, he could just get away with it and Giorgio would probably, you know, like, well, we tried, I'm not going to help you guys out anymore. But he had to show her how personal this was to her, and that was psychologically a little interesting there.
Yeah, it messed her up a little.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the Godsend? What the heck does this thing do? So a little peek behind the curtain. Those of us who got the screeners after we had watched it got an email that said, when you're doing your reviews, you know, after the embargo, but before the thing has come out, here's a list of spoilers that we do not want you to talk about. And it, you know, like the deaths, Mel and Fuzz and all of this stuff. But one of them was the nature of the Godsend and how it works, or something like that. And I'm like, we can't spoil that. You have not told us. I don't understand how this thing works. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we have no idea how it works. Not a clue. What, does it just destroy everything? What?
Yeah, it what does they say? It causes a chain reaction across the quadrant or something like that.
So basically destroys everything.
Yeah. How this little, I don't know, but it's a MacGuffin. It's a total MacGuffin. And again, it's another, you know, world-ending thing that, like, can we move on from that, please?
Yeah. Speaking of another world-ending thing, Dave and I were talking about it after the fact, and we were trying to put into words what the movie felt like, and this was only after the first watch. And he's like, it's kind of like, you know, I was expecting more of a you know, intrigue, and what we got was kind of like Avengers plus Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't have a problem with that per se, because Star Trek can be so many different things, and people who keep trying to confine it into these tiny boxes, you know, okay, go ahead, you know, that's your right, but you can't force the rest of us to think that way. And you know, they're going to do things that are different, and that's a good thing, because it's still all Star Trek.
No. Can I say I did enjoy that little are you saying Godsend or Godsend? I'm not hearing a difference in what you're saying.
Yeah. Like, no, there's an apostrophe. It's like God's, no apostrophe. Godsend. Just
okay,
arguing about it as they walk off.
I do love how Giorgio just ignores them too. She's like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
That was
it was one of those cute moments.
Yeah. So San, and this is something that I didn't kind of think about, but other people have pointed this out. How is he still the same age as Giorgio?
That's the thing that drove me crazy the most.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it when I watched it, and then somebody pointed that out. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, when they were getting ready to reveal him, like, I was like, I wonder, because you had a younger actor play his younger self, then you had the actor play his more current self, and I thought, and I remember when the reveal was about to happen, I thought, did they hire an older actor now to play him, or are they going to just age the adult actor? And then when they reveal him, I'm like, well, he looks the same he did like 60, 70 years ago. Wait, how is that possible? And this is why I wanted to do the rewatch. I don't think it's defined, but the fact that he faked his death makes me wonder if he had this ultimate plan, you know, somebody's helping him with this. And that he wanted to do something to take over reign of the empire or something. And he thought, you know, he was going to wait till Giorgio was older. And so he was in suspended animation for a while. And then he came out of it. And then she's not there anyway. But then the Godsend is sent, which I know I'm going all crazy here. But then I was thinking, like, I just want to ask this question too. Don't you think the Guardian of Forever sent Giorgio to this time because the Guardian knew he would be doing this at this time? Like, she was put there because of this.
That could be. The movie doesn't tell us any of that.
Right. But for some reason, the Guardian decided to put her there, you know?
Yeah.
So it makes me think there was a reason for her to be at this time that the Guardian decided. But as for his age, yeah, that drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Honestly, I can just, if I really try hard, I can write it off as, well, first of all, how did he get here? Because he was in the mirror universe. But even just excusing that, there's nothing that says that time passes the same way between the two universes.
Oh,
So,
except they've been lined up every time.
Yeah, but
So I think they do. I think for our universe and the mirror universe, they do line up time-wise.
which is weird, because do you have any idea how unlikely that actually is? Extremely.
Yeah.
Extremely. Like 1 in a quadrillion chance that those two universes would be synced up with the same time.
Well, I think you're onto
What
something.
we've been shown, though.
I think you're onto something, because I assumed that what was it, Dada or whatever, the guy who brought the Godsend in, went through the ion storm, you know, that's mentioned here in the chat, and then maybe through that ion storm is also a time portal. It's just not taking.
It could be too.
It's both, right?
Yeah.
Sent into a different universe, but to a different time period. So they're both entering through the same port, the same way they came in through that same portal, coming in at that same time. That's another possibility.
Yeah, because that's what happened with the Defiant as well. It went to the mirror universe, but it also went back in time.
There you go.
See, and that's what I'm saying is there's 15 different explanations that they could have given us, and they just needed like one line.
No,
and it would have been like, oh, that makes sense. Cool. Moving on.
But this is why I like the novels and the comics, because they'll give that to us someday.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing that bothers me is his, supposed suicide and him dying. And I'm like, and then what?
Right.
He's laying supposedly dead on the floor, but isn't dead. What's she doing? Is she having someone come in and clean up the body? Who's cleaning up the body? Is it someone that he arranged to come clean up the body, etc., ad nauseum? And so there was just too much missing between his apparent suicide and him being alive for me.
Yeah. In that scene, interestingly enough, Giorgio does say to him, I forbid you to die. So he's just doing what she said.
Right.
He's loyal right up to. Yeah. Yeah, like I think it is easily explained. I just wish we didn't have to. Like, there is a tie-in comic coming next month.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
there we go.
I forgot about that.
Maybe
Yeah.
that explains it. Maybe it's like the countdown comics for Star Trek 09, right? There were so many different things, and they're like, well, you have to read the comics. Why? But anyway,
You shouldn't have to read the
no,
comics, though. You should never.
exactly. Yeah,
You should never have to read the comics for context on
100%.
a live action series or movie.
No,
All they
because
had to do is give him gray hair, and we could just, oh, he obviously aged. He looks good for his age, but he obviously aged. That's all they
Yeah.
had to do, but they did.
no. Okay, so somebody in the comments way earlier mentioned San's ship. I love that ship. It's like an
It's so cool.
origami folded thing. Very cool. That was the one ship in this movie that I was like, that is beautiful.
It is beautiful. I loved that ship, and
Yeah.
I love it when you have color to ships too, because
Mhm.
Starfleet, it's all just gray and white and gray and white and gray and white and gray and white. So to see this sexy red ship, oh hell yes, give me one of those.
I fail to see why gray should be the default when purple is an option.
Yeah, exactly. Use some color, Starfleet.
Exactly. Yeah, this red highlights on that ship were good. Reminded me a little bit of La Serena. A little.
Same.
That was kind of cool
Mm-hmm.
for sure. The bridge of the ship, I don't know if it's a redress of the Discovery bridge or if
Kind of
they
felt like it, didn't it?
felt like that, right down to the dang old flamethrowers on the wall. I need to get rid of those things. Why?
Yep.
Oh man. Anyway, still little tiny niggling. I'm like,
There was just so
still have
much
those
open space. So much open space there. And I didn't even think about that really the first time. And the second time I was watching it, I was like,
Mhm.
is that the Discovery's Bridge?
I feel like, yeah, could
At least
be
the
for
floor
sure.
part, I think, was
Yeah.
for sure.
So I guess let's just talk about that whole ending scene. We've got the garbage scow using the tractor beams. I liked some of the space battle stuff. I think there was some
Yes.
really cool movement and dynamism to that scene. Even, and this is something I mentioned in the podcast as well, the torpedoes hitting. They did this cool thing where it like explodes against the shields and like wraps around the ship, and it had a really cool feeling of movement to it, and I don't know, there's a lot of cool visual effects in that part of the movie.
Yes. I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
No, I was just going to say, I've heard some complaints online where people say the special effects look cheap, but I didn't think so.
I didn't think so.
No.
There's some ways I think that the fact that it's not a theatrical release and doesn't have that budget shows a little bit, and I think that's more in the number of sets and that sort of thing. I don't think the visual effects are indicative of that at all. In fact, that scene where they're interrogating Dada No, and there's that explosion behind them and they beam away, their ship blowing up and falling out of the sky, that was one part where I'm like, they put some money in that. Like,
Mhm.
that feels like, that doesn't feel like they're standing in front of a green screen. It also doesn't feel like they're standing on the volume or the AR wall. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like there's a ship in front of them blowing up and then tumbling pieces of debris landing by their feet. I don't know if that's visual effects mixed with practical effects, or if the digital effects are just that good now that I can't tell the difference, but that was really good. I thought that was excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Totally off topic, but because you said it in its entirety now, I can't stop thinking about it. Dada No is such a Star Wars name.
Yes.
It is such a Star Wars name.
Yes. Also, the choices by the actor, I really enjoyed, and I don't mean this in an insulting way at all. I feel like this character stepped right off of Lower Decks into this
Mhm.
movie, and it's okay. Like, it's that's okay. Like I loved his choices. Just the way
Absolutely.
he talks and the way he carries himself. I'm like, this guy's a cartoon, but I love it.
Yep. Yep. Well, he was made to look like a cartoon, but in live action, so it worked for me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. The one scene that I think I do not like is when they're careening through the shaft on the little platform thing. Okay, Michelle Yeoh is an excellent fighter. And
Mhm.
like, we don't need shaky cam and things going on while that's just show her, like, we don't need to do all that. I physically had to look away from the screen every few seconds because I was feeling sick to my stomach. I can't imagine what that would be like on a theater screen. Um, Boo. That was the only time the camera is still, and I'm glad it is when Quasi rescues Alok and like is suspended in the. That was a cool moment, but other than that, I was just like, I feel sick to my stomach, and this is too much. Am I old? Maybe I'm old.
No, no. Well, I I think that the things that we do in our youth, um, we have a different level of tolerance. Like how I used to be able to go on Star Tours at Disneyland.
Oh, I love Star Tours.
Can't do that anymore. It makes me sick.
Oh.
Makes me sick. And I'd never used to be that way. But
Mhm.
sometimes just your body changes and you don't know that you can't do anything anymore until you can't do that thing. Just yeah. Basically the last time I went on Star Tours was I can't even remember now. It's been more than 20 years ago
Oh.
at least. But it's been more than 20 years since I've been to Disneyland because, it's ridiculously expensive. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little sick one time on Star Tours, but that was maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But anytime I get on it since, I haven't been sick because I'm like, okay, don't get sick. And I try not to get sick. I don't know. I try to focus more different so I don't get sick. But I didn't have that problem with this. And I'm watching it in my movie theater room, which is like a 125-inch screen. So it really
Ooh.
didn't, which really should get you, but it didn't get to me. But I do agree sometimes, and not just in this movie, but other things, the shaky cams, it just, I don't want the camera to be a character as much as it gets to be sometimes. And I want the action to stand on its own as opposed to the camera trying to make it even more intense. I don't mind it in some cases, but I had the same problem with Discovery in the point that you made, Dan, that Michelle Yeoh is so good at fights that even in Discovery, it would bother me that we didn't always get a full frame of her fighting and we're getting more close-ups and shaking. And I'm like, oh, I want to see her do this more than I feel like I'm being duped into not getting to really see how effective she is as a fighter. And that bothered me in Discovery, and it bothered me in this too.
Yeah, for sure. I like what you said about the camera not being like a character or in, that's one of the things, and I love Olatunde Osunsanmi's directing. I really do. Like 99% of what he does, I really enjoy. He does have this tendency though to like, let's unmoor the camera and like let's start flipping it around and like let's do crazy things. In some ways it works really well. I liked towards the beginning of this where we have the out of phase thing where they're juddery, and at one point Giorgio passes through the camera and I'm like, woo, that kind of messed my head up a little bit, because like not only is she immaterial to the world around her, she's immaterial to the thing capturing the world. Whoa, that was kind of cool. But during the fight scene, there's one moment especially where Giorgio flips somebody and the camera flips too. But the camera doesn't flip with the person, it flips the opposite way. And I'm like, wow, that took me right out of it. I'm like, why did you do that? I don't understand. And I mean, there's language that directors use. I just don't know what that part was trying to communicate to me, because all it did was make me go like, whoa, that I don't feel good now. So
I've been thinking about that because I noticed that as well. And it isn't the only time that you see that, of course. And I thought, are they trying to give me a visual reminder that Giorgio is from the mirror universe by flipping things over?
yeah.
Because they did that with the logo at the beginning of the film, the Paramount logo.
Yeah.
So, except they actually did do an actual mirror image. So the flipping it over isn't a mirror image, you guys. What is that about? And I
Yeah.
couldn't the only explanation is that it was some sort of representation of, remember, she's from the mirror universe.
Yeah. The only thing that I personally came up with in the moment is like, you have the Dutch angle, right? Where it's like the world is off kilter, everything's tilted, it's crazy, the world is messed up. And I was like, is this just an extreme version of that? Is this like, this world is messed up and crazy? I don't know. That's the closest I could think of. And I'm like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a style. It's just a style. It's and I do think it's a little overdone. That he does it a little overdone, just like Abrams overdone's lens flares. So
Yeah.
No, really? I never noticed that.
Yeah, you did, Brandi, because every day you watch Into Darkness.
Yeah, how many days it took me to get through it. And then watch it for 15 minutes and go, no. Come back to it a week later, 15 more minutes. No.
That's why it takes every day. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, Bruce, that's a good point. It could be just like a directorial signature. Like it's just got to have a bit of that in it because that's my style. That's, I guess. Still not the biggest fan of it. Never will be, I don't think. But okay, so we started talking about this and then I was remembering all the other stuff we haven't talked about. But the very end of the movie, I'm sitting here, I'm prepared for everybody in the comments and you guys to call me gullible. I will admit at the very end of the movie, the very first time I saw it, I absolutely believed that they could in that moment kill off Giorgio and Alok because I thought maybe they had done the mental calculus and said it was really expensive to get her. She's doesn't have a lot of time. We're going to get this one movie out of her. Let's have her go out in a blaze of glory, saving the galaxy and finally atoning and all of that stuff. So I was like, they might not rescue her at the end. This is a death fake out that kind of worked for me in Star Trek, which is a rarity. That said, I will also present as evidence for my side of it that the way the scene is cut at the end when they turns out that they are rescued was really weird. And it makes me wonder if there is a version out there where they did kill them off, because like they're heading towards the thing, it's about to blow up, and then the next thing we see is black, and for some reason Garrett is unconscious. She wakes up and sees Giorgio and Alok there, and they're like, oh yeah, I guess he got us out in time, huh? And like that's it, which was strange to me. So I'm like, I wonder if there is a cut out there where they decided to kill them off, and I don't know. But I will say, like, that worked. It was a kind of a Rogue One moment for me at the end. I was like, I could see them going out here, and I would have been sad that that character would be gone, but I would have been okay with it. I think it would have been a good resolution to her character, saving the galaxy from a weapon that she had created and sacrificing herself to do it. I think that would have been kind of poetic. I'm not mad that they didn't kill her off because I would really love to see her again in Star Trek, but I don't know. Thoughts? Not sure what that was.
I don't know. I didn't think about it that way. I thought they'd be saved. So, but and I just basically wrote off Garrett not being in her chair and being unconscious to the fact that there are no seatbelts in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And it was a bumpy ride. They are on a garbage scow, basically. So can I say how much I love that a garbage scow saved the day?
That was pretty cool. I like that it's the little hero ship that flies around at the beginning for the Star Trek logo too. That was cool.
Exactly. That was adorable. But yeah, I never entertained the idea that that Giorgio would die. I just figured, well, they were going to do a miniseries. Now they're going to just do this movie. I don't think that they're going to erase the character or get rid of the character because, frankly, if they can get her again, they're going to.
Yeah.
And I don't think they wanted to close that door. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my thought on that.
Dan, you and I think too much alike.
They got you too, huh?
Well, I thought when they were going into the ion storm and the Godsend's gonna blow up, 2, 3, 1 countdown, and I was like, oh yeah, they could kill her off because they're probably not going to do another movie, and and I just thought, oh, I like this even better now. Not that I want her character killed off. It's just more of like it just would cheapen it to me because if they survived at that point, because it did appear that they sacrificed themselves for the greater good. And I thought, what a redemption story for Giorgio. Like you said, creating a device that could destroy a quadrant, but she protects the quadrant by destroying it with herself. And that's her sacrifice. And his sacrifice too is an augment in his background. And I thought that would put a nice little ending chapter to this character. And it just cheapened it when they, like you said, oh, they're here. They made it through. And it's like, well, great. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really want to see them die, but it just cheapened it and didn't make it that much of a sacrifice. It wasn't a sacrifice. Like, it just would have done so much more to me for her character had she had done that. And so I wasn't mad that they survived, but I was disappointed because I thought it would have been a bold story choice to kill her off at the end. And I think it would have benefited her character in the overall scope of her character throughout Discovery in this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally of the thought of wanting my cake and eating it too, because I would love that ending. I think it would be poignant, it would be bold, it would be great, but I would be like, damn it, we don't have that character anymore. So yeah, I'm mixed feelings on that, but generally, yeah, I think that would have been an interesting, really bold is a good word choice there.
Well, and even if they wanted to keep the door open, give us a little something like maybe they're on the ship and they start running towards, like, let's get to the shuttle pod or something, and then it blows up, and then we're just left hanging like, well, did they survive or didn't they? I don't know. I mean, and just leave it open maybe. And if they decide to make something more, oh yeah, they did make it to the shuttle pod or something, or but I don't know. Yeah. It just cheapened it for me. That's all.
I get that. I almost prefer them making a choice one way or the other, though.
Yeah.
Like I would have hated the question mark. I'd be like, ugh. If it serves our need in the future for them to be dead, they're dead. If it serves our need for them to be alive, I'm just like, make a choice, and they did. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. But yeah, I'm disappointed that they didn't do what I was hoping they would do. But I am glad that. I mean, I still enjoyed it, and I'm glad that her character's still around, because in case they want to do something else with her, then great, let's do something else with her. But I don't need another universe killing machine or whatever. Like, how many times have you said this?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's always the Avengers. It's an end of the world thing.
Yeah.
That's why it's Avengers plus Suicide Squad, because if none of them come back, no one ever knew that they were there in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so the actual final ending of this is really what makes this feel like a pilot to the ongoing adventures of Section 31 and Giorgio and Alok and Wisp, apparently, and Quasi. Which I don't know. We can talk about Wisp, I guess. Feels more like a gag than anything else, but I don't know. We've got basically this team, and they get a communication from Control, which, okay, so at the very start of the movie, when we have that voiceover during the briefing, I remember thinking like, whose voice is that? That sounds really familiar. And then over the course of the movie, I just forgot about it. I'm just like, oh, it just disappeared. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, okay. So Jamie Lee Curtis is in Star Trek now. That's cool. That was a fun little cameo.
Yeah. I feel like maybe she and Michelle Yeoh got on so well that Michelle's just like, hey.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Because, you know, if you guys haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, what is wrong with you? Go watch that now.
Such a good movie. Oh, man. So
one of the
good.
best movies I've ever seen in the history of ever. So
yes.
Do that.
Yeah. I remember when she popped up, I was like, oh, that's interesting that she is doing this cameo. And then I thought, oh, yeah, duh, they were in that movie together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Oh yeah, we also find out that's thanks. Rachel Garrett was promoted to lieutenant commander. Oops, and that she's going to be riding shotgun with this team, I guess, going forward. That's pretty cool. It's a nice setup, and I kind of do wish that we would see more. I don't know. I'm not sure how well the movie did. I know reception out there is really mixed. I don't know how motivated Paramount's going to be to do anything more with them, whether that's with Michelle Yeoh or not. I don't know. I like Casey Roll and Sam Richardson enough that like I would watch more of them, and the others too. Sure, maybe Wisp. I don't know. I don't know.
No.
I don't understand the accent thing. That's the it's not just that the accent is bad, it's just like why? Why do they have these accents? And why is his wife a different accent than he is? And I don't understand why that was necessary. I don't understand that choice.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know either, but I just assume it's I can't remember the name of the little alien, but of the species, but maybe that's, because they're inhabiting a humanoid body, they have to work to create a voice and speak in that language, and they pick an accent and it's just too over the top, just like when they're laughing and what, like, I don't know. I don't know, but I did read something. I think I was on trekmovie.com that the actor who portrayed him said that he was told there was a whole episode that was going to explore that species and learn more about that race. So.
Yeah, more of the same, just like what could have been, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I would like to see more. I don't know if the prospects look good for that, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious about this comic that's coming out too, and I would like to see more tie-ins as well. Like, I have these characters show up in novels too. Like, I like them for the most part. So
yeah. Now, if you were going to make a sequel, what would you call it? Section 31-2?
Yeah, but except it would be like section 31, comma TOO. Section 31 too.
You were reading my mind, Dan. Again. And now the cat has finally had enough of me.
To section 231.
Oh my gosh, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if they rename it. They do the sequel, section 32.
Yeah.
No, please, no.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there you go. 32.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's go around final thoughts and maybe a rating for section 31. And I feel like I'm going to give it an actual rating, like out of 5, but whatever you guys want to do, that's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I never like to do the 1 out of stars, like out of 5 stars or out of 10 stars, whatever. I don't like doing that because there's not enough wiggle room for me. So I will say I didn't have expectations, and I'm glad that I watched it a second time. I always do with Trek anyway, because I enjoyed it a lot more when I wasn't having to worry about the plot and where it was going, and I could pay attention to all of these other things and still find the Vulcan robot so annoying. But and there's one thing that bothers me. Did they have contacts on Michelle Yeoh, because it looked like she had a different color of eyes?
Yeah, for the first half, basically, she was wearing contacts.
And I guess that was part of her character that she's portraying as this bar of the owner, Madame Dufranc. And honestly, all of her outfits were just magnificent. So,
Yeah.
but nanokins, that's what those guys are.
Oh yes,
The
thank you.
little bitties. They're nanokins. I knew I'd written it down. Overall, I think that people are being way more harsh on it than they need to be. But everybody gets to have their opinion. I'm not going to say that people are wrong for having their opinion. So everybody can feel about it how they want. I actually enjoyed it. Was it the best thing I've ever seen? No. Was it the worst thing I've ever seen? No. Believe me, I've seen far worse movies and loved far worse movies, frankly. Anyone remember Megaforce? Anyway, so I will get. I'm not sorry that it exists. I didn't have expectations, so I couldn't be disappointed by what I thought it would be, because I didn't want to think what it would be. And that's how I try to go into everything creative, because it's going to hit differently with different people. I'm going to stop dicking around and tell you what I really want to think about. I'm going to give this let's see. I'm going to give this 1 crescent nebula. So, yeah, just take that however you want to do. But yeah.
I don't know how to take that.
Well, that's the thing. I never go with. Well, sometimes I go, no, I never go more than a 1. So it's just a thing. I choose a thing that I think represents what I'm saying, which is basically, it's a crescent nebula. You don't know for sure what's in there until you get there.
I like that. Oh, wow. So, final thoughts. I did have fun with it. I was surprised with how much fun I had with it. I don't think this was a movie to be taken seriously. I think some of the bad reviews, I think they're all valid, but I also think that Star Trek has kept a high bar, and that's why maybe some people are harder on this than what it really deserves. But again, I don't think it was great. I don't think it was bad either. I think one of the things that's interesting to me is this is the first time that I can recall, just thinking right now, but this is the first time we've had anything in Star Trek that we get introduced to a crew, essentially, and we're only going to see them once. Anytime there's been a Star Trek movie, it's characters we're familiar with and we've gotten to know and build a relationship with and build a universe with. And this doesn't really give these characters that chance. So it's a one and done thing. So that makes it a little awkward. And the fact that it was planned to be a mini series and shortened to a movie makes the script kind of clunky, creates a lot of situations that are questionable, or why is this, or throwaway lines and whatever. So it doesn't help the project when you're going into it with a big script and condensing it into something smaller. You're introducing characters that are a one-time thing. And it's not Star Trek in the traditional sense. This isn't Starfleet exploring or even just fighting Borg or whatever. I mean, this is a ragtag group. So there's a lot of things that are against it. And it didn't achieve itself at a high level either. So I think it gets harder reviews because of what we've had in the past. And but that being said, I think it was set up to be fun, and I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to watching it again. But on Trek BBS, I gave it 6 out of 10. So that's chaos, 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 chaos.
Nice. That was I really like a lot of the points you made there. And I hadn't thought of that. The fact that, yeah, this is the only time we've gotten, a introduction of a crew and just in a movie, and that's it. That's interesting. I like that. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what both of you said. The condensing it, the cutting it down, you can see, like I said, the bones of what used to be there, and it's really too bad that had to happen. That said, I enjoyed this as well. I had fun with it. I think it very much benefits from a second viewing. I think that first viewing, it takes a bit to get your bearings for a lot of the reasons, Bruce, that you outlined there. I think that contributes to even just the regular first watching of something is a little bit unmooring. And then you add in all those other things that you say are against it. Yeah, it's tough to get your mind around something so different in the Star Trek universe. That second watch, I ended up just relaxing into it and enjoying it a lot more. The characters, I really like the characters. Casey Roll, I think, is amazing. Michelle Yeoh, of course, is awesome. I think that goes without saying. I liked it. So I've been doing episode reviews on my YouTube channel, and I borrowed the 5-star rating system from Goodreads, specifically the way they define each star. So 1 star is I didn't like it. 2 stars is it was okay. 3 stars is I liked it. 4 stars is I really liked it. And 5 stars is it's perfect, it's awesome, it's the best. This is 3 stars to me. I liked it. I enjoyed it. So matching up with your 6 out of 10, I enjoyed it. I think it's fun. I'm having a bunch of friends over tomorrow afternoon to watch it. I'm really curious to see what their thoughts are going to be. This will be the first time they're seeing it. Yeah, it's not the best. It's certainly not the worst. And it's funny, even taking a middle of the road opinion on this, how much it feels like I'm being put in the position of having to defend this movie against people who, call me an idiot for liking it and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world. I don't want to stand on a mountain and defend this to the hordes. I don't care. I enjoyed it. I think people, if they give it a chance, will enjoy it or not. And if they don't, that's okay. That's where I'm at. A little middle of the road. So yeah, I'm giving this, let's say 3 weird camera flips out of 5.
And we had about 3 camera flips, didn't we?
It was about that. Yeah.
There you go. Wow. Yeah. The one last thing I wanted to say is I also look at this as being a Discovery side story, just like a Short Treks. That as a standalone, it still can work, but it really is just a side story to Discovery.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I've seen other places calling this a long trek versus the short treks. I'm like, yeah, it's I like that. Yeah. So I see Tristan did show up, so I don't think I need to do his coupon Jim. I think he's here to do that. So Tristan, if you're there, I thought I saw you in the comments.
I did see him earlier. I don't know if he's still here.
Yeah, because of course Facebook, the page reset, and now I've lost.
Oh, he's here. He's here.
Coupon Jim says, "Let retail pricing die. Kill the middleman if you have to." Bruce looks confused, and I love it.
Bruce, do you want me to explain Coupon Jim to you?
Yeah, because yeah.
Okay. It's a pretty short story. I worked in a toy store many moons ago, and I worked during the time where the prequels were coming out. And we got in a lot of Star Wars action figures. The thing is that there were some that sold a lot better than others, which is always the way it is with collectibles. And Qui-Gon Jinn was one of the ones that was left over a lot. And my boss was saying, "Yeah, we need to make room for more of these Star Trek figures, or Star Wars figures. And we've got so many of the Coupon Jim." And I said, "The what?" And she said, "The Coupon Jim." And I said, "You mean Qui-Gon Jinn?" It's like, whatever. So, and Coupon Jim was born. This was over 20 years ago.
You know what?
But it stuck.
If we ever start a Star Wars podcast, I want to call it Coupon Jim.
Yes. You have it with my blessing.
Oh, that's awesome.
But Tristan really just went above and beyond.
Yeah.
Just grabbing hold of it and keeping it alive. And I can't thank him enough. So thank you.
I have to look in my closet. I might have an original Coupon Jim action figure from that.
I want to know. You better let me know, Bruce.
I'll let you know.
Absolutely. I loved this so much. Thank you guys so much, and thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate this. I'm not sure when we're doing this next because we don't know when Strange New Worlds season 3 is coming, but we will be back for Strange New Worlds season 3 whenever that is. Hopefully we learn that soon.
I'm gonna guess April.
I think I was thinking March earlier, but the fact that it's getting towards the end of January and we haven't heard, I'm pushing that out a bit. April, yeah.
I think April. I agree. I think you're right.
That feels safe. Hopefully we find that out soon. I'm assuming they're probably going to let the Section 31 stuff kind of go for a few days and then start the promotional machine up, I guess, for Strange New Worlds. So
yeah, and then after that is Prodigy season 3, followed by Picard season 4, followed by of Lower Decks, right?
And season 6 of Discovery, don't you forget?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, no, that's what Starfleet Academy is in my mind. Is season 6 of Discovery.
That's true. That's fair. Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Make sure to check out the Positively Trek discussion group on Facebook. And subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell so you know when we're going to go live, because we don't know when that is yet, but hopefully soon. Thanks, guys, for joining me. I really appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Getting a little